Peace. It's good. How y'all doing? Today is Sunday, April 7th, 2024. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. I am doing well. I am currently on day 3, going into day 4 of a fast. And I'm feeling good. I was battling a headache earlier. Um, been sitting at the computer a lot this weekend, and normally I don't try not to be at the computer a lot like that, but I have been, and so I had a slight headache earlier, but I pushed through it. I took like a 10-minute nap and just had some peppermint tea with some reishi powder, and so it gave me my second win. And I know I've told you guys I have a tendency to overthink, and I was either going to record episode 53 today, or I was going to sit down and just have a heart to heart conversation with you guys. And I really wanted to get episode 53 done today, but I got up at 7 o'clock this morning. You know, when you fast, sleeping is, you don't really need that much sleep. So I jumped up, got straight on the computer, and when I split the two in half, I was like, okay, now I can really kind of stretch my legs out and kind of expand on these subjects. And true to form, I got snagged on a couple of things, and I won't say went down rabbit holes necessarily, but just really trying to. This is going to be a really good episode. It really is, and so it's done. Well, it's almost done. I just have a few things to tie off at the end, but I also know that talking for 2 hours, because it's going to be at least 2 hours. I was going to thinking about doing it on live on YouTube too. Talking for 2 hours when I've been fasting and haven't eaten in this long can be a challenge. And so I made the executive decision once I noticed that I was getting a headache and starting to feel kind of lethargic to just lay down and to be merciful and kind to myself and graceful to myself, which has been a very large part of my learning curve over this past year. Really? And see what happens when I try to give a new sound a chance. I don't even know why I did that, but let's see here. I'll just keep this one because I like this sound. I just put it on. Did I put it on repeat? Enjoy the ambiance while I figure this out, guys. Okay. I think this is repeat. Is that repeat? Or is that repeat? This is repeat. Um, yeah, so I made an executive decision to just lay down, right? Because, and then when I got up, I was like, okay, this would be a good time for me to just have the heart to heart, because I know I am fasting and I'm a lot more clear in, I think I'm a lot more clear in my perspective. I have a lot more clarity when I fast. And so, of course, again, true to form, I sat down and was like, okay, let me grab, some quotes, some resources, some references, and then I was like, you're overthinking it. Just sit down and turn on put some nice ambiance in the background and hit record and just let it flow. But I wanted to have this conversation with you guys because, man, we are living in some amazing times. And as I've been sitting back and observing all of the partial, some of it's chaos, some of it's mindfulness, some of it's astronomy, right? And getting us to think beyond ourselves and into the heavenly body, so to speak. But there's a lot of voices in I'll say in the ethers. This is like a lot of talking, a lot of voices. And I know a lot of people, most people mean well. We all mean well. We're all trying to figure it out. right? And none of us have it figured out, which is something that is fascinating to me because with all of the talking and different vantage points, and everybody has a right to express themselves, but none of us really know. And I think that that should cultivate humility. You know what I'm saying? And not humility like cow down and put your face in the ground and don't look up. No, that's not even humility. That's slavery. But sometimes people use the word humility like a ball and chain, right? And so I'm mindful and conscientious of that. But I'm at the point right now in my life where if it's not adding value to my spirit, to my mind, if it's not giving me clarity or teaching me something that I wasn't aware of or advancing my mind, right? And that's another thing about headline news because this episode is heavy into, um, didn't I just tell you? I know there's, okay, I must have pushed the wrong button. Let's see. Okay. This is a 639 hertz true love manifestation. But I like the sound, I like the vibe. What was I saying? See, this when I'm fasting, my mind is moving really fast. Fasting, my mind's moving fast. Huh. Um, okay, so I was talking about the talking. I was talking about anyway. Let me just. We are all going through this and going to go through this together. Oh, I was talking about humility, right? And the unknown. And a lot of times that we use the connotation of fear of the unknown, right? And we use that as a means of expressing that that's usually when fear comes into play when we're dealing with something uncharted territory, so to speak. um but I also know that consciousness creates reality, right? And so even our language and how we speak about certain things, I've been being very, very mindful and conscientious about my words, about my language, mostly and in particular or especially in my own head, in my own mind. I wrote some notes down. I had these things on a sticky note because what I was okay. So let me tell you guys, I was planning to do a walk with me one day, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So I had my sticky notes. I just jotted a couple of things down I wanted to remember, and then I got out, and the wind was insane. So I knew it was gonna blow the mic. It was gonna make sounds, but anyway. So these are the notes from my sticky note. I wrote words spoken with determination. And so think about that because that can swing to either end of the pendulum. You can speak fear-based language with determination. There's so much negative content and negative conversation on social media when it comes to the black male female dynamic, especially black men and women. Like our culture, not we, because I'm not in that, won't be signing my name on that list. And I said it again. I got caught up in the ambiance of the beach. Our culture is so hell bent on pitting ourselves against one another. It's a very low vibrational conversation and low vibrational energy. And it's obviously, directly connected to the music and the music industry. And that's a big part of what I'm going to talk about in episode 53. I know I've been talking about, celebrity cultures, but like I really did an expose in terms of how Satan is using our people against our minds and against our rise. And so here we are shifting into a new dimension of consciousness, which is known as the age of Aquarius. And so as we're shifting into it, we're, it's not like you turn the light off, you turn the light on, and lights off is dark, lights on it's light. No, it's a transitional phase. So it's a gradient process. So that gradients means that, just to give you merging out of the age of Pisces and merging into the age of Aquarius, right? And I'm not all into astronomy. I'm not an expert in that field, never claimed to be, but I know enough about life and I know enough about God. And I've researched this particular subject enough to take what I know from that and use the wisdom of what I know as a woman, as a mother, as a human being that has, against all odds, managed to remain tapped in to her heart chakra and striving to embody and to attract the love frequency. And I'm a student of history and I'm a student of the world. So this radiation into the age of Aquarius, talking about the celestial bodies, as above, so below. Our ancestors wrote this in stone. That and know thyself. So as you studying the cosmos and the heavenly bodies is a reflection of studying self. That's why it's important. But we also have to be mindful as we're studying the celestial bodies, and some of us worshiping the celestial bodies, which that was never the proper connotation for the relationship. We also have a tendency to devalue the human experience. And so if we're looking at the physical body, we're looking at a woman's birthing process in 9 months, and people have made the correlation. People have made the correlation of the celestial bodies, and comparing and contrasting the physical body of the woman and what she goes through when she's bringing life into fruition in her womb, and then eventually transporting a soul from the unseen realm into the seen realm, which is a very powerful thing, right? We can talk about the finite down to the very particulars of the atoms and the protons and in the electrons, and then turn around and studying all of nature, the vastness of this planet, the vastness of this experience, the celestial bodies. Again, there is an overwhelming amount of proof that it's all made from the same substance. It all comes from the same stuff physically, but then also mentally, because we live in a mental universe. We live in a mental world. So words spoken with determination. It ain't no good man out here. That's a prophecy that Black people have been speaking over our culture for how long now? All of the women are ... That's a prophecy that our culture has been speaking over our people for how long? That's why I don't have any remorse for these celebrities and the way that they're being used and abused. Everybody has an opportunity along their path to compromise themselves. If you're willing to risk your integrity right now, there's 1,000 different things you can do to get put on or to get rich right now, wherever you are in the country, in the world. So we all had that opportunity at one point or another. So using our culture and our people to keep us locked in a low vibrational frequency, speaking words with determination that are very detrimental to our mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. Didn't just start today. It's been going on for a long time now. But that pendulum swing has to take place, and we're in the pendulum swing right now. There's only so long that you can emphasize and harmonize, adding the music aspect of it, and glamorize death and destruction. And it is absolutely death and destruction when you see what the culture of rap music in particular right now, female rap music, is doing to our daughters and our women. The pendulum has to swing to the other end. I'm not sure if you guys can hear when it says recording stopped and recording in progress. I had to stop for a second. The heat turned on and I started, it got really warm in here. And again, I'm fasting, so my temperament is delicate. So, you know what I mean? I have to be careful. But so, but then again, when we talk about celebrity culture, that's one aspect. But then the microcosm and the macrocosm cosm still applies. So while everybody in the world and most people in our culture are completely eyes are glued to the set looking at this situation with Diddy, you imagine how much content has been created since that story broke. I've been watching. It's a lot of people making some good money creating content just on that story alone. So the macrocosm being celebrity culture. And I have seen and known since 2020. And as I saw this whole agenda unveil itself, and you guys know, because you heard me say this a lot of times, everybody on a large scale and on a small scale that has committed themselves to a life or a culture or a job or a business or a reality or a system that is out of alignment with the love vibration, with the love frequency, meaning the COVID shot, meaning the tests, meaning the masks. Now, I didn't say the people who were ignorant and didn't know and made choices and decisions accordingly because they got caught up in fear. There's a caveat to that as well, because that state of mind and state of consciousness and awareness has to be shifted. And I want to say a tone, but I don't think that might not be the right language I want to use, depending on the severity of the situation on an individual level. So Satan is going after Diddy on a high level, but then in the hearts and mind, in our own individual hearts and minds, when the language is negative, when the fear is strong, when the worry is being projected in a very strong way that you can't control, when the self-doubt and the lack of self-love is still a reality in your life, that's how the devil gets in. Not talking about a little red man with red horns. I'm talking about a frequency, a state of consciousness. And you know, if you've ever been in a dark space, how hard it is to get up out of that space. And then, you know, they say when it rains, it pours. And so you might start out going through a difficult situation and you can't get your mind right and get your thoughts focused on something better and something beautiful. So next thing you know, life is hitting you with a right hook and then a jab and then an undercut. And you feel like God is punishing you. Been there. It's difficult to stop the stream of negativity and darkness when you're in it. It's one of the hardest things in the world. But the beauty in the experience is that the extent of your suffering, the extent of your difficulty, the extent of your pain, once you start to shift your awareness and start to slowly take back control of your thinking, slowly take back control of your mind, surrender, because sometimes that's all you can do. I don't have an answer. I don't have a way out. I can't see a way out. I don't know what to do. I surrender. Universe, cosmos, God, Allah, Neteru, ancestors, etc., higher self, help me to see my way through this. Help me to feel my way through this. Help me to find my way through this. That and those are the moments when all you can pray for is clarity. Those are the moments that all you can pray for is to not feel so alone, to not be so alone, to not feel so disconnected from source. I know what it feels like to feel disconnected to God because I've been connected my whole entire life. So I know when I'm out of alignment. And it's even more difficult when you are conscious or have a certain level of awareness because you're out of alignment, but you're also criticizing and beating yourself up for being out of alignment. It's the ultimate mind game. But the trick is not even the trick. The reality is that the worse you feel, the more depression, the more suffering, the more anxiety, the critical aspect of that is that you're not looking at yourself the way God sees you. You're not looking at the benefit of the circumstances and the difficulties that you may be experiencing to see what's on the other side of it. It's difficult to really value and appreciate love until you had your heart broken. And I'm not saying you can't fall in love and have love and have strong love. And I'm not saying that heartbreak is a requirement. And your heart can get broken different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be by the person you're in a relationship. Your parents can break your heart. Friends can break your heart. Children can break your heart. Our culture has broken my heart many a times. Because I know what we're capable of, and I know our power. And I know the war that has been infringed upon us is so blatantly obvious and so clear. And we still collectively have not sat up straight and started to get serious and focused, particularly about being intentional about our words and what words we speak with determination. So I commented on a post on Instagram, and people are still commenting. I feel like I may have said this in a video. If I did, pardon me. My brain is, it's a lot going on in here right now in my mind. Where Shahrazad Ali was talking about the male-female dichotomy, and she just was, the black man he's so abused. He goes out everywhere. Nobody respects him. Da 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 da. She's laying out all these things that may be true to an extent. But those are words spoken with determination. That's a prophecy, in my opinion. Because I understand that consciousness creates reality. And then you have tethered to the language. We could look at the last 30 years, 40 years, really 50 years. Before that, we could go back 100 years. Before that, we could look at a 400-year timeline, right? We can go back in history and make it make sense. But why would we? It's time to start speaking life over our affairs. It's time to start speaking into the wind, into the ethers, into our minds, into our children, into our men. Life, love. I don't want to hear that shit no more. I know how language can be dangerous and detrimental. Yes, there's you always talk about Black women beating men down with their mouths, right? And I don't do that, but I've seen it done. Just completely disparaging language and words. You ain't gonna be shit. Da 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 da. You know, boys in the hood. Your daddy ain't shit. You ain't gonna be shit. And different. Pardon me for cursing, guys, but it is. I'm in a zone. And perhaps God is speaking through me. So I don't even know if I should take responsibility for the curse words. I'm just saying. It's what happens when I fast. The nerve, right? Um, so we can look at the language because that language is spoken in determination, right? But it's also the continuity of Black men are so beaten down. Black men don't have this. Black men don't have access. Black men are not being respected by their women. Black men are this, like, you know what I mean? And there's truth in that. I'm not dismissing or diminishing that. You're gonna see when I do headline news, I got some bars for these chicks. It's one of the reasons why I decided not to do it today, because I gotta be in a certain type of frequency to have that conversation. The warrior spirit needs to be present. And the warrior spirit is always present, but I'm in lamb in LAMB mode right now. I almost said sheep, but we know that's not a possibility. I do not identify with the concept of being a sheep. Never have, never will. I'm being funny, but I'm just saying. So, those words of what the Black man isn't, what he can't do, what his limitations are, how he's constantly being ridiculed and stifled, et cetera, are being spoken with determination. We have to start talking about and thinking about and expressing and focusing and meditating, envisioning and intentioning the world we want to build, the world we want to create. That's why a lot of the content that's online right now, the fear-based consciousness, et cetera, I just can't do it. And I still talk about things that make other people feel afraid. I still talk about chemtrails and the things that I'm studying, but I'm not afraid when I talk about it. Now, if you receive it with that spirit, that's not on me. And because I'm very mindful about the average person's bandwidth for certain types of content, I'm being very particular about the things that I talk about and how I talk about them. So if we're gonna talk about something that might be difficult to discuss, we're gonna either open it up or close it out in the spirit of God. Because fear cannot live here.